She says, we respect Toruk Makto, but our ways are ancient.
This is my out-of-the-home theater review for Avatar, Fire and Ash. But before I give you my thoughts on the audio and video quality, let me tell you about the gear that I'm using for this review. For this review, I've got a Crix OWX50 on-wand speaker centered behind an acoustically transparent screen. For front, left, and right and surrounds, I've got 8 Crix Hyperphonics 45s. I've got 2 1961 bookshelf and 4 1961 height speakers for a total of 6 height speakers. For the low end, I've got dual 18-inch JTR RS1s, 2 Stark Sound SW15s, and a 21-inch MagTheatron subwoofer for maximum impact. Processing the audio is a Trinnov Altitude 16 with an Amplitude 16 amplifier. On the visual side, I've got a madVR Emby core processing an EPSON QB1000 4K projector, made it to a 110-inch acoustically transparent Seymour screen with the center channel behind the screen, giving me a 9.5.6 speaker configuration in my home cinema. Okay, so first things first, I am finally done with phase 1 of my DIY home theater upgrade with FabricMate and Acoustimac. I'm pretty much done. I'm about 90% done. I have a few other things that I need to get done, but I'm pretty much done. And I'm tired. I've been working nonstop when I can for the last month and a half on this, and I finally finished it this weekend, sat down, finished watching Avatar, and said, you know what, I'm weeks late on this review. Let me just go ahead and sit down and get this review done. So I'm very happy with the quality of FabricMate. Just completely has transformed my room, and I'm not even done yet. Again, phase 1, phase 2 is going to be the back of the room. That's probably not going to happen anytime soon, but I'll do a separate video talking about that. But yeah, I saw Avatar, Fire and Ash in the theaters, obviously. I believe it was opening weekend, or like maybe some type of, early fan event. And I want to say that I saw this twice. I want to say that I saw it either in IMAX only and then IMAX 3D, or IMAX and then just 3D. I can't remember for sure, but I definitely saw it in IMAX and I definitely saw it in 3D. And when I saw it in the theater, obviously, the 3D, James Cameron is, a pioneer. He's the leader in 3D technology. He's an advocate for 3D technology, even though it's pretty much kind of dead in the home theater community. But for those of you that still have 3D projectors, this should look pretty amazing. I ordered the 3D on Blu-ray, so I'm watching this on Kaleidescape, but I ordered it on 3D, so that should come out next month. And once I get my 3D projector set up, my dad's helping me build a hush box. So once I get that set up, I'll be able to have my EPSON and my BenQ for 3D strictly to watch. So can't wait to see how that looks at home. But when I saw this in the theater, looked amazing, sounded amazing. So this is another Disney project, under Disney. And so I'm like, well, they've been knocking it out of the park for the last couple months, maybe 6 months or so. So I'll talk about the audio here in a little bit, but as far as video, this is going to fill up your screen. So I believe it's IMAX. So yeah, if you've got a massive screen, my screen is 110 inches. If you've got 110, 100, 150 inch, 200, anything bigger, it's going to look absolutely beautiful. Colors are exceptional. Like, I wouldn't say that this is like the most beautiful transfer that you've ever seen, but there's really not a whole lot bad to say about it. Colors are vibrant, lots of colors, some muted colors, vibrant colors. So your blues, the avatars are blue. Anytime there's fire on screen, it's vibrant, it looks like fire. It's gonna really pop with the HDR. And there is some grain throughout in certain scenes. It's not overt, but it's enough to where you can see it. I think if you just really pay attention to it, then it may stand out. But this is a very clean looking Avatar movie, as all of them are. Again, James Cameron, he doesn't hold back with his technology and just having a pristine and crisp image with these Avatar movies. And there's a lot of technology that goes into this. I won't even begin to talk about that because I don't know about that, but the way that this is shot is amazing. Now in the theater, it goes from 24 frames per second to high frame rate. And I want to say, I don't remember what the high frame rate is. It's either 30 or 60. I want to say it's 30. But I had kind of forgot about it when I was in the theater because you're watching it and it's pretty obvious at first when the very first few minutes when they're flying around, it switches to high frame rate and you're like, man, that looks weird. What is that? And then I remember I was like, oh, that's the high frame rate. But it looks awesome, especially with 3D. So I'm trying to remember, I want to say that I noticed something different when I was watching it here at home, because I remember looking at the video and I was like, something seems kind of off. And then I went, oh, I wonder if that's the high frame rate. So I can't confirm if this home release has the alternating aspect ratios. But again, I started watching this movie while I was still working on the theater. So I've been watching it over like the course of a week, 2 weeks. But I want to say I remember noticing the frame rate looked a little bit wonky. Not wonky, but I noticed a difference. So I'm gonna have to go back and watch it and see if I can dig up some information on if this is actually transfers to, you know, the high frame rate back and forth. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, it looks awesome, especially with 3D. Some people don't like the high frame rate. I don't mind it. It's smooth, but it can be a little bit jarring if you're not used to it and you're not expecting it. I had already known about that. And again, I forgot about it when I was watching the movie, but then when I saw it, I was like, oh, that's the high frame rate. But then throughout the movie, like, you kind of just forget about it. Your eyes kind of adjust. But the image is beautiful. So with my madVR, my EPSON QB1000, the picture looks pristine. The colors are vibrant. There's just a broad range of colors and saturation throughout this movie. When you go back from, you know, the Na'vi to the fire people, whatever they're called. So you've got, you know, really good HDR with the fire and the smoke and the haze, stuff like that. You know, the sky, obviously the colors of the avatar, the water, the trees. This is just a beautiful looking movie through and through. I don't really have any issues with it. But again, it's not like, I don't think this is going to be like the standout of the year as far as video. But yeah, this looks amazing. James Cameron, he knocks it out of the park with the video.
Uncle Raiders, weapons up! Sound the alarm! Weapons up!
Jerry, go!
Go! Get these hands! Come on, let's go! Let's go to cover!
Go, go!
Protect your sisters. Can you do that? Yes, sir. Stay in the cover. Yeah!
So as far as the audio, so I have mixed thoughts on this. I don't think the audio is a bad mix at all by any means. That being said, I was kind of disappointed in the audio on this one. So when I saw this in IMAX, it sounded pretty good. And there was a couple scenes, multiple scenes with the bass, which I'll talk about here in a little bit, where I was like, whoa, this is incredible. Hopefully this translates, you know, to the home release. But as far as audio, I was kind of let down just because such a big blockbuster movie like Avatar, you would think that the home release is just going to knock it out of the park. And for me, it just didn't do that. But again, it's not bad. So when I'm looking at the Atmos viewer for the scene that I selected, it's pretty static. So your bed layer speakers, there's not much, hardly any object activity going around on the bed layer speakers. Obviously, that probably will change. I didn't look at the Atmos viewer throughout the whole movie. I just kind of focused in on the scenes that I'm showing you in this review. And I remember hearing it, I was like, okay, it sounds pretty good, but I'm expecting a little bit more. So as far as the bed layer speakers, and I did upgrade my bed layer speakers to Cricks, which again, I'll talk about that in a separate dedicated video. But I was a little bit let down. And especially when I'm looking at the Atmos viewer, yeah, the bed layer speakers, the objects just are pretty much static. They're not moving around at all. There may be a few times when they, the objects kind of move around a little bit, but then they go right back to just static. And as far as the height channel activity, I've got 6 height channels, 6 speakers, and during this scene, I would say 90% of the scene, it is only using the top middles. And that translates to what I was hearing. Because during this scene is primarily it's 100% aerial. Like they're in the air on this, floating, whatever it's called, ship. So on the ship, they're stationary, but they're also in the air. So this whole scene takes place in the air. And when I was watching it, before I even looked at the Atmos viewer, I was like, this doesn't sound like I would think it would sound with being in the air. They're traveling through the air. So there's going to be wind blowing, you're going to hear the rustles of the trees and stuff like that. And they're pretty high up in the altitude. So there's going to be some wind pressure, some pressurization, just wind in general. And I just remember watching it, I'm thinking like, okay, I hear some stuff in it. The stuff that I can hear sounds cool, but I don't feel like it's utilizing the technology to its full extent, which the previous movies that Disney has released, 4 or 5 movies, have been stellar, awesome. So I was kind of confused, where I was like, did they drop the ball on this? But then when I looked at the Atmos viewer, I'm like, oh yeah, it's only using the top middle. And again, I have 6 height speakers. If you just have 4 height speakers, then maybe it'll use all 4. That's typically what usually happens, but I can't confirm that because I used all of my speakers. But there is some dynamic activity throughout the scene occasionally, but for the most part, it's static as well at using the top middles if you have 6 height channels. So that was a bit of a letdown, especially considering the scene is completely 100% aerial and there's, people flying around, Navi flying around on their dragons, whatever they're called, I forget what they're called. They're shooting arrows at each other. There's machine fire. There's all kinds of stuff happening in the air, overhead, flying around, and it doesn't really translate like it should or like you think it would. So yeah, a little bit of a letdown. Disney kind of digressed on that one. They had been knocking it out of the park lately, and I was hoping that Avatar Fire and Ash would be on par or even better, because this is a massive blockbuster movie and it's kind of disappointing. Again, I don't think the audio is bad. I can't say like, oh, this sucks, but I'm not really impressed.
To kill our 2 coon families, I beg you, fight with us. She says, we respect Toruk Makto, but our ways are ancient.
We believe that killing will only bring more killing in an endless, expanding spiral.
Hear my words. The Sky People will never stop. Not until the last of the Tokun is hunted.
Look!
Now, as far as the bass, this does have bass that suffices. I'll say that. Again, when I saw this movie in IMAX I think runs a little bit hot sometimes on their bass, but it was thumping up in there, and I was like, "Ooh, this is cool." So the scene that I chose for bass, and there's some bass throughout the aerial scene, but the scene that I chose for bass, and I remember as soon as I saw it in the theater, I was like, I'm playing this at home in my theater. It's when the like whale elder creature things come up out of the water, and they're like talking with the whales and asking them to help them fight, you know, the Sky People. And whenever they talk, the water, you can see the water vibrating. And I remember when I watched it in the theater in IMAX, that bass was so deep and intense and potent and guttural. I was like, oh snap, this is awesome. I love the sound design that they did on this movie with the whales whenever they were, I guess you could say that they're talking, or communicating. But as soon as I heard the bass in the theater, I was like, this is the scene I'm playing in my home theater for bass. And I will say that it's pretty good, but it's not as deep as I thought it was going to be. It doesn't translate from what I heard in the theater to in my home theater. This is probably the most standout scene for bass and, you know, for deep bass. And it sounds good. It sounds clean. But like I said, it doesn't dig as deep as I think it should, or as I remember hearing it in the theater. Now, obviously the theater, it's not going to sound exactly the same because you're talking about a massive, massive space with bigger drivers, probably more subwoofers. Well, I don't really think they use subwoofers. I think they just use, you know, speakers, that full range speakers. Anyways, I was also let down by this scene. Now, I still think it sounds good. I think it's the best scene in the movie for bass, and it's tight. It's not bloated. It's clean. But from what I remember seeing in the theater, it just didn't dig that deep in my home theater. So I don't know, man. Somebody they didn't do as good on this transfer. And for as long as this movie was in the theater, I would have thought, okay, they're going to have plenty of time to get this right, to knock it out of the park. And again, you know, all around, I'll say that the audio suffices. It isn't bad. It doesn't suck. It's not the worst audio that I've heard. But for the scale of this movie and from what I remember seeing in the theater, it's kind of a letdown for me personally. So how would I rate this movie? For video, I'll give this a 8 out of 10. It's not anything that really wowed me. It looks consistent with the other Avatar movies, maybe a little bit crisper since, you know, it's been so long since the first movie came out. And I mean, the first Avatar still looks amazing. But good HDR, vibrant colors, you know, good spectrum of colors, you know, across the color spectrum. But it's not anything that's going to stand out. I don't think this is going to get, you know, any awards for visual effects other than the technology, maybe. So yeah, I think I'll give this an 8 out of 10 for video. For audio, I think I'm going to have to go with a 7 out of 10. I thought about giving it like a 6.5, but 7 to me is usually, it's kind of just like, this is what it should be. You know, that's the baseline. Like, it should be at least a 7 out of 10. And it's pretty much that. I wasn't really impressed with the audio. I felt a little bit let down, you know, with the height channels, and especially with that aerial scene. The height channel activity should have been just absolutely lit up with every stuff flying around, and, you know, fire and, you know, bullets and stuff and arrows flying around. And it just didn't really impress me. And then the bass, like I said, it suffices. I think it's average at best, especially for the scale of this movie. So yeah, I'm gonna give the audio a 7 out of 10. But I think that's gonna conclude it for my review of Avatar: Fire and Ash. As far as the movie itself, it's almost kind of like a carbon copy of Avatar, you know, what is the second one called? Way of Water. There we go. So yeah, I mean, I kind of understand James Cameron. Like, that movie made over $2 billion. So why would you change, you know, the formula if it's going to keep making money? Now, it's not exactly the same, but pretty much the same stuff happens. And there's a couple new characters, you know, new people. Story plot is a little different, but some of the stuff is just kind of like, okay, well, you know, it's not bad. It works. But we'll see what the next one, 4 and 5, is. Hopefully that has a deeper story and better storytelling, because this one is just kind of like a carbon copy. So it's a fun watch. I don't know how many times I'm going to end up watching this, just because it's like, I enjoyed watching it and I love the Avatar movies, but it didn't really wow me that much. It does invoke emotion, though. I will say that this does make you feel something with the family and the stakes and losing loved ones, stuff like that. So yeah, that's my review of Avatar: Fire and Ash. I want to know what you guys thought of the movie itself. What format did you see it in? Did you see it in IMAX 3D? And if you have this on digital, Kaleidescape or Apple TV or some other digital service, what are your thoughts on it? I haven't watched this on streaming, so I don't know what the audio quality and the video quality is like, but I imagine it's probably not going to be as good as the disc or Kaleidescape. So I want to know your thoughts down in the comments below. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next video.
I beg you, fight with us.
She says, we respect Toruk Makto, but our ways are ancient. We believe that killing will only bring more killing.